Today, we're going to dive into a powerful story that asks a pretty devastating question. It's called The Last Lesson by Alphonse Daudet, and it's set during the Franco-Prussian War. It really forces us to think about what happens when a community is about to lose a core part of its identity, its language.
I mean, just imagine that for a second. Seriously, you wake up one morning, and with absolutely no warning, you find out that by the end of the day, your mother tongue is going to be forbidden. That exact situation is right at the heart of this story. All right, so our story kicks off through the eyes of a young student, a boy named Franz. And for him, the day doesn't start with some big historical crisis, but with a very personal, very relatable feeling of dread.
So, let's set the scene. We're in a region of France called Alsace. It's 1870, and France has just lost a war to Prussia. Because of that, this whole area has been taken over. And that little fact, that's the crucial backdrop for everything that's about to go down.
So, this is Franz. He's running late for school, which is a huge problem because his French teacher, Monsieur Hamel, is known for being incredibly strict. Franz is absolutely terrified of facing him, especially on this particular day.
Franz's mind is just racing. First off, he hasn't studied for a test on participles, and he's dreading his teacher's infamous iron ruler. The weather's so nice, he's actually thinking about just skipping school altogether. But as he's rushing through town, a couple of things stop him in his tracks. He sees Prussian soldiers drilling in a field, a constant, nagging reminder of the occupation. And then he sees a crowd of people gathered around the town bulletin board, which, for the last 2 years, has only ever been the source of bad news.
So, pushing past all that fear and curiosity, Franz finally gets to school. But the vibe there, it's even more unsettling than the dread he felt on the way.
I mean, think about a normal school day, right? It's chaos. It's noise. You've got desks opening and closing, lessons being shouted out loud, the teacher's ruler banging on a table. You can hear it all from down the street. But today, it's completely silent. So quiet, Franz thinks it feels like a Sunday morning.
He peeks into his classroom, and that's when he spots the first really odd thing. His teacher, M. Hamel, isn't in his regular clothes. No, he's wearing his special occasion outfit, a beautiful green coat and an embroidered cap, the kind of thing he only wore for inspection days or special ceremonies. Why would he be wearing that today?
But here's the real shocker. The back benches of the classroom, which are always empty, are full of the village elders. You've got the former mayor, the old postmaster, and other seniors, all just sitting there looking incredibly serious, almost like they were students too. Yeah, something is definitely wrong here.
So Franz braces himself and walks into the silent classroom. But instead of getting yelled at, he's met with a kindness that's almost more frightening than anger. And then the announcement comes that explains everything. Hamel just looks at Franz and tells him to take his seat quickly, saying they were about to start without him. And his voice, it isn't harsh, it isn't angry, it's just very grave, very gentle, and filled with this strange sadness. And then he says it. The words land like a thunderclap. My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. An order has come from Berlin. Starting tomorrow, only German will be taught in their schools. This is their very last lesson in French. And just like that, everything clicks. The crowd at the bulletin board, the strange silence, the teacher's fancy clothes, the villagers in the back of the room, it all suddenly makes a terrible kind of sense. And in that one moment, Franz is just hit with this massive wave of regret. He can barely even write his own language. He thinks about all the time he wasted. And those heavy, annoying school books suddenly feel like precious old friends he's about to lose forever. So the lesson begins, but it's nothing like any class they've ever had before. Miss Hamel completely transforms from the strict schoolmaster into a passionate defender of the very treasure they're all about to lose. You know, when it's Franz's turn to recite the rules, he gets stuck right on the first word, but M. Hamel doesn't scold him. Instead, he says it's not just Franz's fault. He blames the parents, who preferred to have their kids working on a farm instead of at school. And then he even blames himself for sending students to water his garden or just giving them a day off when he felt like going fishing. Then he starts talking about the French language itself, but not as a set of rules. He talks about it like it's a living part of their soul. He calls it the most beautiful, the clearest, the most logical language in the world, something they have to guard among themselves and never, ever forget. And that leads to his most powerful message. For a people who have been enslaved, he says, language is so much more than just a way to talk. It's their identity, it's their history, it's the thing that connects them to each other. He says it's like having the key to their own prison, something that can keep their spirit free even when their land is occupied.
We're in the final moments of the class now, and everything builds to this deeply moving and defiant conclusion.
Hamel gives them one last writing lesson. He's actually brought new notebooks for everyone, with the words France, Alsace written beautifully on them. And everyone in that room works with this incredible focus. The only sound you can hear is the scratching of pens on paper. Franz even notes that the pigeons cooing on the roof sound distant, as if they're holding their breath too.
And then the moment comes. The church clock starts to strike noon. At that very same instant, they all hear it. The trumpets of the Prussian soldiers, returning from their drills, sounding from right outside the window. The lesson is over. Hamel gets up from his chair. He looks deathly pale. He opens his mouth to say something, but he can't. He's so choked with emotion that the words just won't come out. He's completely overcome.
Since he can't speak, he turns his back to them and faces the blackboard. He picks up a piece of chalk and, summoning every last ounce of his strength, he writes in the biggest letters he possibly can,
Vive la France! Long live France! Without saying another word, he just leans his head against the wall and makes a gesture with his hand. School is dismissed, you may go. It's this final, silent, but incredibly powerful act of defiance. In the end, the story really leaves you thinking that language isn't just some tool we use. It's a fundamental part of who we are. It's our history, our culture, our identity. And it's a powerful, powerful reminder to never take that for granted. So I'll leave you with this. What does your language mean to you?